We are here with Matt Arndt of Matt's Healthy Woods and Wildlife, who is a forester extraordinaire specializing in sustainable timber practices while leaving this rock a better place for generations to come and improving the quality of our habitat for whitetails. Matt, let's talk planning.
Planning is important. Anytime you start on timber management, it's not do it now, change next year. It's not a short term process. You're manipulating that system for potentially the next 80 or 100 years. So having an idea of what you're doing before you start is definitely a good idea. And that might be.
If you don't mind me stopping you here just for 1 second, this is very much to put it in a way that I know my viewers are going to be able to relate to it. It's just like putting in a food plot. You grab a bag of seeds, you go head to the corner, that's the easiest place to put in a food plot. How are you going to get in there? How are you going to hunt? What are you going to have for safe wind direction? If you don't figure those things out beforehand, odds are that's not the best place to put in that food plot. Planning really does make such a huge difference for the end results.
And planning from the forest health standpoint and the right practices in the right place to get the response that you're looking for. And like you said, planning for how are you going to hunt it. If you're doing a heavy thinning or some group opening, something that's going to create quality bedding cover, but your favorite stand's right square in the middle of that, you're making it to where you can't effectively hunt the cover that you're creating. So especially thinking about not only what's best for the forest and what's going to give the results, but how are you going to hunt it? How does that play into your overall goals?
Which really all says to me, you need to start with a goal. If you don't have a goal to begin with, then how are you going to go ahead and reach it?
Absolutely.
So you come up with a goal, then you begin the planning process. I know this is a loaded question here, but what are some of the things we really need when it comes to planning for forestry? What are some of the things we got to keep in mind?
Well, there's a lot of different things that comes into a forestry plan. It could be as simple as a walk through the forest and talking about things. It could be a full-fledged forest management plan, a written plan, data supported guide for the landowner. There's a large different array of different things that plan could look like, but you're always thinking about the soils. What trees will grow depends on what's underneath, what they're growing in. And so the soil types underlying that forest are very important. That dictates what you're going to be able to effectively manage for. And then past human management, past natural processes, there's a lot of different things, and there is no substitute for a walk in the woods. That's the bottom line. So all of that comes together to guide your management forward. And you talked about having the goals. Just because you decide today, these are my goals right now, doesn't mean that you can't alter those in the future.
As soon as you started that sentence, one of my next favorite sayings popped into mind, and that is, I always try to remain rigidly flexible. Because as these things change, this is my goal. My goal is to achieve this. But I start going like this, and I see myself, all of a sudden this goal over here might not look bad at all.
And especially when you're starting with a blank slate, like when you start with an unmanaged forest, you can envision everything you like, but once you start managing a few of these stands, once you start doing some of these management practices, you might say, I really like the way this over here is turning out and this not so much. So let's gravitate towards these type of practices, and I really want to concentrate on this area, or I really want to concentrate on this area, or this habitat, I think that the deer are using this really well. Let's just hold off and wait 10 years before we touch that. So it might be that your actual management causes your goals to change because you're getting a better understanding how your specific forest is going to respond.
And one of the things I've picked up working with you so far is that this is very, very similar to the habitat improvement work I do, in that you are almost always going to be so much more effective taking what the habitat is giving you.
Absolutely.
And work with that rather than trying to force feed this idea. I want my entire 200 acres to be nothing but an oak savanna, and it's never been an oak savanna before. You know, it's always been mature, closed canopy, blah, blah, blah.
Or killing every tree except the few scattered oaks because you want acorns. Well, the reality is the deer utilize those acorns for about a month in the fall. They need food the rest of the year. So a big hickory ridgetop, you manipulate that ground level vegetation effectively, that's going to be the food that actually grows the antlers. The acorns is the food that gets the deer through the winter. It's all the rest of the browse that grows the horns.
And so please do correct me if I'm wrong here, but you are almost always going to be more successful by going ahead. This is what it's been before. I want to put that on steroids. This is one of the pluses I have on this ground. I want to put that on steroids rather than, you know what? I don't have any walnuts out here. I think I'm going to go ahead and plant 120 acres of walnuts.
Maximize what nature has already done is my typical approach.
Thank you for far more eloquently saying what I was struggling to say. Beautiful. Generally speaking, you want to have goals to start with. You want those goals to remain rigidly flexible. Work with what you have. Get out there. And to work with what you have, you have to first learn what you have.
And understand that it may take a little while to get there. A lot of a forest is a long-term, a long-lived system. It doesn't happen immediately all the time. So some of the response will be excellent immediately and then degrade over time. Some of the response will get better over time. So understanding the ecology of the forest, the physiology of the trees, and how they're going to respond to the treatment that you're putting in there, and having realistic expectations about what am I going to gain from this practice.
Thank you very much,
Absolutely.
Matt.